Hello Outriders, it is Ebontis here, and in this video what I want to cover is a Technomancer build that I've been using. I'm playing it as a solo player, so that is definitely a thing where I hear the Technomancer does shine. And this is basically a blighted rounds infinite ammo crit build. So let me break all the pieces down, and then I'm going to do a quick side quest to show you guys how it works. So here we go. Alright, so to start off, let's talk about the skills we're using first. The most important one is going to be Blighted Rounds. Now, you'll notice my cooldown doesn't change that much, it's pretty standard. Blighted Rounds do certain things. They fill your current magazine with decay-infused bullets that inflict toxic onto enemies. Enemies within a small radius of the main target also receive toxic, and 50% of damage. The skill lasts until you reload or switch weapons. That's the main piece. For some crowd control, I'm using Cryo Turret. Place an automated turret that deals 1152 damage and inflicts freeze onto enemies. The turret's health depletes slowly over time and when it takes damage. So the nice thing about the Cryo Turret, it's able to shoot enemies that are very far away and freeze them in place, and that's going to help me be able to get some crit shots, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Final thing that I'm using, mainly because this round makes me pretty squishy, as in I die easily. And you may as well. And that's one of those things about this build I'll show you guys where my health may go up and down quite a few times. Sidequest may be a little easier to manage, may not be that difficult, but believe me, I've gone into some in-game expeditions, and there's certain world tiers that are just kind of kicking my butt. So there may be a level where this doesn't work, but this got me through a large chunk of the game very handily, and it's useful with a couple different type of weapons. So fixing heal or fixing wave literally release your energy to restore 33% of health to all players and 50% of health to your turrets, regardless of distance. So it's one of those things that it's one of the only class abilities between all the classes that is just a literally healing ability. It's the only one, so it's a good support ability as well. And honestly, if you take this build in with maybe a couple other players who are more in the fight, like if you have a Devastator and a Trickster with you, or maybe even a Devastator and a Pyromancer, it doesn't matter. If you are able to stay back on this build, then this would be actually a really great build because you're helping some crowd control, your fixing wave is helping heal all players, and then you're just pumping out a ton of damage. It still works as a solo player, and I'll kind of explain why, but you are definitely at risk as a solo player. Trust me, I've died pretty fast, so just giving you guys that caveat up front. For the subclass tree, there is one main thing I'm going for here, and it is my crit. It's my weapon damage paired with my toxic bullets, and I'll show you where all that comes together. So anomaly power down here, that just kind of feeds into basically more toxic damage. But I've got weapon damage, 8%, weapon leech, 5%. Again, the main thing about the Technomancer is skill life leech is 15% and weapon leech is 15%, and that is the way you get health. Any damage you do, you recover a portion of that as health, so your leeching is the only way you really get health. So it is important to obviously do a lot of damage so you can leech even more health. So improve weapon leech. Main reason I'm not doing the decay cooldown skill, I'll explain a little bit later. Armor piercing by 10%, so the damage you do does, pierce the enemy's armor a little quicker. Critical damage by 15%. This is crucial. We do crits all the time is what we're going for. Now this is massive. Every time toxic is afflicted on an enemy, vulnerable status is inflicted as well. So anytime an enemy is inflicted by toxic, which is basically every bullet that you shoot once Blighted Rounds is active, it's going to cause vulnerable on them. And vulnerable causes them to take 30% more damage. So you're going to see a lot of things start stacking up here. Next one right next to it, vulnerable afflicted on an enemy is 40% more effective. So I don't know if it's 30% times 40%. It could be. So you're going to get a decent chunk more, basically more damage that they take. Here we've got toxic afflicted on enemies lasts 30% longer. So if an enemy is afflicted by your toxic decay, the death over time, the dot effect, the damage over time is going to last longer, and also allows you to take advantage of their toxic effect and do more damage to them. We've also got up here, decrease the distance considered to be long range by 3 meters. Now, this is specific into, depending on what weapon you're using and what status effects, but as you get a bonus to long-range weapon damage increased by 15%, Long-range weapon damage defaults to anything 18 meters or farther. Well, with this one right here and this one right here, now it's anything 12 meters or farther. So if things are, you know, things can be a little closer and I still get a substantial chunk of damage on them. So that's why. Another 8% weapon damage. Enemies afflicted with toxic receive 10% more damage. Another 8% weapon damage. We're going to increase assault weapon damage because of my current build. I've also done this with sniper rifles, and I'll go show you another node that I had for that. Increase your armor piercing. Again, trying to break through armor, trying to do as much damage that you can with every single bullet. Increase your long-range weapon damage by 30%. To get to some of these end nodes, you need to hit this anyway. That's why putting these two nitrogen capsules on are beneficial. Grand amplification. Increase your anomaly power by 4% of each BR/8 impact amplifier class node. That's these. So you're already getting your weapon damage anyway. Now you're going to boost your anomaly power to go with it. Increase your magazine by 50%. Kind of got to get that. And you've got enemies afflicted with toxic receive 30% more damage. Couple nodes here at the end. Activating decay increases weapon damage for you and your abilities by 40% for 10 seconds. Now I'm going to show you why I don't actually have this chosen. And it's going to be surprising. Yeah, in the first 10 seconds, sure. But just to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler, the blighted rounds, I turned it on one time and I never turn it off. So this is the general run through the skill tree. Basically what I'm trying to do is increase my weapon damage, increase the toxicity length and toxicity damage. And toxicity now makes them vulnerable, taking 30% basically all the time if they are afflicted by toxic, and also 40% more. I've paired that currently with I'm doing it with a light machine gun. I've done it with a couple different weapons. The light machine gun works pretty well in this build with a little bit of forgiveness. I've also done it with snipers, and it's crazy powerful. I'll kind of explain that as well. So now we go to inventory and talk about our gear. Now, before I go too far, or too much farther, what I want to say is this is not like a perfected build. It's working fairly well, but I definitely still have a ways to go until it's like the be-all, end-all. So for now, it's working, and there's certain things, but you can probably take this if you find like certain mod combinations or legendary options, or maybe a better gun or anything of that nature that are going to make this even better. But for the time being, this does work fairly well for what I'm trying to do. So what are we working with? Blighted rounds is the main piece. So we have a couple rounds that are helping with that. So the first one, blighted rounds. The skill is effective for one additional magazine before triggering cooldown. So if I use up my magazine, which currently is 100, plus the class node where I get a 50% bigger magazine, I have 150 bullets in this magazine. So it lasts a while. But if I'm fighting some bosses or fighting something that's being weird, can't find a crit spot, I'll show you guys why. What you're able to do then is you're able to basically reload and have another set of ammo. So it can last substantially longer. And as I'm basically a one-trick pony, this is the only thing I'm really good at with this build. It's kind of important that this is up. So secondary magazine, while not required, and could be one of those things I lean away from later on, at the moment, it's one of those things that just definitely helps. These two kind of come in to be very specific. While the skill is active, so while blighted rounds is up, if you kill, your killing shots grants you 30% extra bullets in your magazine. Well, 30% of 150, I'm going to let you guys do a little bit of math there. You're talking about not quite 50 bullets, but you're close, especially when I have 150 in the magazine. Even if it's 100, you're talking about 30 bullets. How many bullets does this take to kill? Not many. So the idea is you're killing blows, and it's probably on a short cooldown, but as you're killing enemies over and over and over and over and over, you're getting bullets back in your magazine, and therefore you don't really need to reload ever. And that's the main idea behind this infinite ammo build. I'm continually killing enemies, I'm continually getting ammo back in my magazine, and I'm just constantly pumping out damage, and I'll show you guys how. Now, the other nice one I found, I didn't even know this one until I was playing farther into the game, Radical Therapy. Deal 15% more damage against enemies afflicted by toxic. So remember, we already had 10% and 30% on the skill tree, now we're 15% more. We're stacking up some good damage. Now here, you've got critical analysis. Blighted rounds increase critical damage by 30%. So let's see. When they're afflicted by toxic, they're vulnerable. That's 30% more damage. Then I have them take 40% more vulnerable damage, okay? Then if they're afflicted by toxic, they take 30% more damage, and 10% more damage, and 15% more damage. And now, if I hit them with a critical, that's 30% more damage on top of that. So you guys are seeing probably where the damage numbers are going to be really fun to watch. As for my other nodes, I've got Cryo Turret. Every Cryo Turret shot deals 630 extra damage. This one I'm still kind of torn on. There are multiple ways to work with your Cryo Turret and different things that it can do. And there's even different abilities that I may change into later on. I'm still testing this out. I will say the Cryo Turret's freezing ability at range has a lot of benefit, because you can freeze a lot of different enemies, and if you're freezing like a major boss guy pretty far away, and I'm able to just, unload critical damage on him, it works substantially well. So this is why the Cryo Turret is still a good one for me versus, say, the Blighted Turret, even though this is a decay build, because the Cryo Turret can freeze some big enemies in place and sometimes honestly save my butt. So it's there for a reason. Mr. Fix It up here. Activating the skill grants you and your allies 100% armor and 30% resistance bonuses for 5 seconds. So when I heal myself, I also am a bit more resilient for a little while. And it's one of those things that if I'm getting to the point where I do need to cast my heal, I'm also probably a little bit in trouble anyway. So this is helping me stay alive a little bit longer, get out of a tough situation when it happens. Now, the other mods I've got equipped are Perseverance Shield. Receive 2857 points of shield whenever your health drops below 30%. This doesn't always save me. Believe me, I've been nearly dead, and I've seen the shield be up and my life bar be empty, and I die, so... But it is one of those, if I do kind of... If I am taking some damage, it's actually giving me that little boost that helps me. Pair this with whenever your health drops below 30%, inflicted enemies... freeze is inflicted on enemies within a 10-meter radius. It's a pretty good radius. That's pretty much anything that would be considered close range. And they're all going to be frozen. So if you do get to a point where you're in trouble, you're going to get some shield, and you're also going to freeze enemies around you. It's got a cooldown, like 5 seconds, so it doesn't happen constantly. But it still is a way, again, if you get overrun as a Technomancer, it's a bad thing in the first place. And then if you get overrun in this build, you're very squishy. So having a couple get out of jail free or save your butt cards are going to be helpful. This one is Stand Tall. Receive 2100 and 1100 firepower when you're out of cover for more than 5 seconds. And again, I'm still debating on what mods I want to put in certain places, and maybe tier 3 mods are going to be better, so maybe I'll get rid of these in the long run. But as I don't really use cover with this build, this is active nearly all the time. We already talked about Radical Therapy, and then down here, Even the Odds. Increase your max health by 10% for each enemy within a 10-meter radius around you, and it stacks up to 3 times. So if I do get surrounded, I'm going to have a little bit more health. It's those times when some jumping enemies come in and get me from far away that it typically kind of catches me off guard. But if I'm surrounded by quite a few little guys for a second, I'm going to get 30% more health if there's at least 3 of them, so then that stacks up a little bit, so it's nice. So again, the secondary tier 2 mods that I've got on my armor right now are actually ones that I'm not totally in love with and probably could be more efficient with tier 3 or legendary armor and things of that nature, but for now it's mostly about the blighted rounds. The critical damage numbers are massive. I never have to reload, and lots of things are afflicted with toxic, lots of things therefore become vulnerable, and I can crush most things fairly quickly with some critical shots. Now, I told you guys I've done this with a sniper rifle. I did it with 2 different sniper rifles. When it comes to a sniper rifle, there's an important piece of the build, and if you're going to go sniper rifle, remember, you barely have to change nodes. You can change this one to sniper here, and you can change to sniper master instead of assault master. Everything else could literally stay the same. The difference is when you go sniper, you have a much smaller magazine. So take this one, for example. I have a clip size of 10. With the perk, I have a clip size of 15. Now, when I hit with this weapon, or at least I did at earlier levels, I could hit, my first shot might hit for 20k, my second shot might hit for 90k, and most things are going to die with that much damage. That being said, it's also difficult to always make sure and hit your shots. So, there's a perk that I found that helps almost every build, and the main reason is bosses. If I'm constantly killing enemies, Right here. Trick up the sleeve. If I'm constantly killing enemies, I'm always getting health back. I'm really never running out of ammo. If I'm one-shotting enemies, I'm never running low. Like 1-2 shots here, 1-2 shots here. I'm getting back, 4 or 5 bullets. I'm never running low on ammo, ever. But say I face a boss that has a lot of health. Now I've got to sit there and pump critical after critical after critical into them, but I'm still running low on ammo, and at some point I'm going to have to reload. And this is where Brain Eater comes in. As you guys can see, the first one, Legendary Minefield, is just part of the Landlubber. It's a cool one, but Brain Eater is crucial for a sniper especially. Critical shots do not consume ammo, period. You hit a critical, no ammo goes away. You could hit an infinite number of criticals if you were patient enough, and you would never lose ammo. This is really, really helpful in a boss fight. And I put the same thing on Damascus Offering. This is the light machine gun I was using for a long time. Now I switched it over because my magazine is much bigger on a light machine gun. But on a sniper rifle, Brain Eater is fairly crucial. Because when you hit that critical shot, you're able to not spend ammo. And you're going to want to crit with a sniper rifle anyway, so it makes sense. But that's kind of one of those things. The smaller your ammo capacity, the more important Brain Eater is. The larger the ammo capacity, like say on this one where I've got 150, I'm probably going to have enough random ads that come up every so often that if I kill a couple, I can refill my magazine and then go back into working on that boss. Or, at least if I have that second magazine, 300 bullets with this build is probably going to kill most things that I'm looking at as long as I can pump a good amount of damage into them. So, currently I've been using the Damascus Offering. I got it as a random drop from a world tier like 12, 13, 14, and 15. When you collect your rewards are all going to be legendaries. So if you work up through the world tiers, you will get max world tier, and you're going to get 4 legendaries guaranteed, so benefit of doing that. This one rolled with critical damage of 21, or like with, I think, maybe 20%, something like that. Status power, and skill life leech. Skill, I could probably take, give or take the skill life leech. I could switch that for something else, I wish. But that's the thing about rolls. You can get a legendary like this, and it's going to have the same mods on it, but it's also going to have different crit damage, status power. So there's still even like getting duplicate legendaries still has benefits. Now, I did not expect this to be as good as it was. The Claymore Torrent shots damage 4 enemies within a 6-meter radius with anomalous blades, dealing 21,000 damage. And it happens every 4 seconds. So 4 enemies in a small radius around whatever I'm shooting take 20 grand in damage. It works. It actually does a lot more damage than I thought it would. I've killed plenty of enemies by doing this. Now, you notice up here I was mentioning Brain Eater. I had Brain Eater on the machine gun for a long time, but honestly, it doesn't really seem to ever run out of ammo anyway. So I actually switched it over to Striga, which is 30% of critical damage is returned to you as health. Now, I already get Life Leech anyway as a Technomancer, so this is just continually giving me a substantial chunk of my critical damage back with Weapon Life Leech as well. So that is the overall build. I don't ever use the pistol, and this is the main piece about it. So if I pull up my stats, you're going to see status power, 108.3%. That's going to increase the damage of my toxic. It's also going to increase the duration of the freeze. So things that get frozen stay frozen longer. Things that have the toxic decay take a lot more damage. Skill damage bonus is going to increase your melee, of course, but my status effects and everything else. So my anomaly power bonus is crazy high right now. And then long range damage, we're looking at 78.4%. So, and you also notice it says further than 12 meters away. The default is 18, so this works on enemies that are much, much closer. If you guys hear my dog barking right now, it's no big deal. But yeah, long range weapon damage, so anything 12 meters and out, is going to be 20 or 78% more. Critical hit damage is up by 46%. Weapon damage bonus is up 74%. Firepower is 52k. So overall, this is kind of where I'm at. So I'm going to go show you guys an old quest just to show you guys what it looks like. This is the Bad Day quest, just to give you guys an idea of how this works. You'll get the idea fairly quickly, but probably should mow through most of these guys. I am doing this at World Tier 14, so enemies are still going to probably take a chunk of damage. But now let's see some big numbers. The first thing you're going to do is basically find a little cover to start, if you want. You can cast your little frozen turret right here. And I'm just going to turn on blighted rounds, and now everything gets to die. And you'll notice even the big beefy guy, he's going to die quickly. Now these guys are lower level, so they're probably not quite as strong as some of the others. But you'll notice my ammo down below just went from like 109 to 145. So as long as you're constantly killing enemies every so often, they're dying. If they're glowing red, they're all vulnerable. They take that 30 plus 40% more damage. And pretty much any enemy I want to pump damage into, can. And I've got enough skill life leech where I can, but if I get into a tough spot, I can also heal. You'll notice I've even got shield up right now because I actually got a little low on health. And then now I've got a little shield. Doesn't last that long. And then every time you go between an area, just make sure you turn it back on. So basically the big thing is you're not able to switch weapons. So you're stuck on the weapon that you've got basically indefinitely. So the light machine gun's kind of a nice balance of range and damage. But sometimes if you were like, oh, I wish I could switch over to a sniper rifle, unless your build is specifically set up that way, you're not going to be able to. So notice, I hit that one guy and all three of them were infected by vulnerable. And again, this is not the hardest quest, but I can show you guys even as I run up here. Even if I'm up in the face, there's my heal. If I need it, these guys die fairly quickly. And I'm able to basically just survive because I have a crazy amount of damage output, which is increasing my leeching, and not much can really stand with the damage I'm outputting. Now, as I said, if I get in a tough spot, a lot of enemies get around me, especially those few moments where you get frozen. I die as fast as anybody, believe me. You want to peek your head up, buddy? That's it. So I literally ended that one. I never reloaded. Still have 150 bullets in my magazine. You guys can see those crit damage numbers go up. Sniper rifle numbers are a lot of fun. And then you'll finish up your quest. So, skip that cutscene. That is my infinite ammo assault. And you can do the same thing with a sniper. It is my critical, basically critical bonus, long range, but not long range. Blighted rounds, critical destruction. It's infinite ammo with a butt ton of damage. Pick up your random rewards. World tier 14. Probably not going to get anything too crazy from there. And that's it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this build. And I hope you guys can find even better variations on this. If you guys find a couple mods that work better, if you get farther in and some legendaries unlock, maybe I'll update this later on. But overall, that is the main idea. Machine guns work because they have a big clip size. I actually really like the stabilizing variation because it's still got a clip size of 80. So it's got a clip of like 120 or something when I do my plus 50% magazine. This specific one, I don't like quite as much just because of its perk that it's using. Sounds cool, but it's just one of those weird ones. Overall, the standard variation also seems to hit a little bit harder, so that's one of those reasons maybe the damage may be a little higher on the standard variation, a little harder to control, but when you hit, it hits. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you guys want to see from me next. I know there's things like status effects and toxic, and, you know, if you get frozen, personally, you need to punch to get out of that, use your melee. So there's some status effects and combat tips I can share with you guys. I covered some of those before. In a separate video, but I could go deeper on those. Let me know what you guys want to see from me on Outriders. I'm going to keep some stuff coming your way because I've got plenty to cover. Thank you guys very much. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like below. Leave a comment if you have any thoughts about this build. If you did enjoy this video and you want to see future stuff, please hit that subscribe button and the alert bell next to it. You guys will see new videos coming from me. Of course, covering Outriders, and I also cover a lot of Destiny, amongst other things. You can find me on Twitter and stream it on Twitch. Could be Outriders, could be Destiny, could be who knows what on Twitch. Even like Ori and the Blind Forest, I've still got to work through that. So always a variety of fun stuff on Twitch. So thank you all very much. Hope to see you soon, maybe in chat or in the comments. Have a good one and enjoy your Outriders experience.